transition to Atlanta? How was it coming from Philly?
Um, it was like a culture shock because you start meeting people um, that come from different environments. The thing about it though was coming to a HBCU, you meeting people like yourself, you know, they grew up in the culture, but it's a culture like you meet a West Coast people, you know, that they grew up off of Pac and NWA, Bay Area, you know, so they the same way that, you know, we grew up off of Big Daddy Kane and Eric B. and Rakim. You go over there, they coming up off of Bay Area rappers, E40, like I said, Pac, NWA, you know, just those kind of artists. You coming up, you meeting people from the Midwest, they coming up off of Midwest artists. You meeting people from Texas, you know, they coming up off of UGK, people from and Scarface and Ghetto Boys, and you meet people from Memphis, they coming up off of 8 Ball MJG and you know, that whole movement. So you meet people from Miami, they coming up off of Uncle Luke and that movement. And then meeting people in Atlanta that coming up off of, you know, even before Outkast and Goody Mob, off of bass music, you get what I'm saying? Like that, a booty shake, what they call it in Atlanta. So, but everybody is from the culture, the urban culture and hip hop, you get what I'm saying? But it's different, you know, the influence is coming from different voices. Right. So, and I'm explaining it from a musical perspective because I'm a DJ, and you know, you grow up in that culture, and the culture is like what shape it shapes you as a you know, and the HBCU was like a melting pot of all of that. So at first, I was open to it, you know, but in the beginning I was a little stubborn because you want to play your East Coast stuff, you want to DJ how you was DJing in high school, right? And then I remember a homegirl of mine, she was from Detroit, and she was like, why you don't never play no Master P? I've never played no, you know, she was giving me different, because she embraced it, you know, because when we first came down, Master P was like future, like Master P was the hottest. Yeah. That's when I realized, like, he was like the first independent artist that I really witnessed that took over the streets like that. Yeah. Because, okay, by that time I'm coming down, Biggie, Bad Boy, and Rockefeller really didn't really pop until I already came to Atlanta. So at that time, I'm thinking Wu-Tang, I'm thinking Bad Boy, Death Row had their name, but coming from the East Coast, Bad Boy was probably the top label at that time. Yeah. And you weren't used to the independent artists doing it for themselves. Right. So coming to Atlanta, and you know, Master P is from New Orleans, and I'm just paying attention to how he took over the streets like that. Right. And then, so that was the first introduction of an independent artist that really like was in everybody's cars, you know. And then P just took over everything. Everywhere you went was Master P, and he was dropping so much that coming out every weekend and putting out different art. That's the first time I ever experienced that. At the same time, I can tell you all the music that was coming around. I remember realizing how big Tupac was. Being in Philly, I didn't realize how big he was. I knew he was, you know, he was on MTV. You knew he was always getting shot. Right. The only records I used to hear on the radio in Philly that they would play was like Dear Mama, like the big commercial records. Right. But you never, I Get Around. I used to like I Get Around. But I didn't realize, and you know, California Love was always on MTV because it was him and Dre. Yeah. But I didn't realize. I knew it was a big album because MTV always played it. The videos were always being played, but I didn't realize how much the people was rocking with Pac like that. Right. And coming to the South, you realize how the South and West was had like a similarity in the Midwest. It's like the East Coast was kind of on its own.
Yeah.
And then you also realizing about that, so that beef, that hip hop stuff and all of that. So that kind of you. But being in college, everybody was embracing. You had it though. It was a little bit of an influence. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little bit of influence, like on us as students, where people, the South would, they would be like, they wearing it. In Philly, we wore Timbs. Back in the wintertime. Yeah. They were like, in the summertime. Yeah. They were like, how y'all wear Timbs in the summertime? That don't even make no sense. Like they was in, so it turned it into something, but it was still like a love because we were all learning, we were all students. Yeah. And I remember the first time coming down, they had this thing when you come down to Clark with all the HBCUs, Morehouse, Spelman, Morris Brown. They had this event thing called Olive Branch where all the freshmen will all get to know each other, and that's when I knew. So they had like this block party, and Outkast just performed. So I'm just for the students. Right. So Big Boy and Dre just come out. This is when Dre had the turban on, right. And they performing Elevators and ATLians, and I was like, this is different, So that was like so. Eventually, I realized, as a DJ, I'm gonna have to start embracing everybody, and it matured me as a DJ. Right. And I just started realizing that you please all these crowds. I never DJ like that when I was up north. When I came down south, you had to start pleasing everybody, and it stretched you. And then you would bring that sound. We come home, and we started telling everybody in Philly, this is what was going on. I feel like it was our generation of students that started. We come back and tell everybody back home, like, yo, Master P, yo, the South. And then all of a sudden, and then it just started rolling over. Yeah. Because all my generation, a lot of people, especially in Philly, we all would go down to Atlanta, and everybody's going to school and then come home for the spring breaks and everything. We coming back and we telling our peers, yo, this is what's going on, and then they would listen, and then it just took over.
Pops is 1987.com.